Getting Started in Employee Stock Options, which is published by Wiley and Son, and I published it along with John Suma. But it's the only book that's out there that tells you how to optimally manage your employee stock options. And most of those people in the industry think that, well, to get people to do hedges by selling calls or buying puts while they're holding employee stock options or restricted stock is too difficult. And for some people, and most of the time, that's true. And the reason is it's too difficult because they don't understand what they have. And the reason they don't understand what they have is because nobody's telling them what they have. And the reason they're not telling them what they have is because they don't want them to understand what they have.
If you're hedging the true value of these employee stock options, if you're an employee and you decide to manage these options, first of all, does the company let you manage them? Are they yours to manage? What are the politics of that, and what is the authority of that?
When the options are granted to the employees, there's two documents that govern the terms of this contract. You see, what they have is a contract with the company. The company is obligated to sell them shares at a specific price throughout a specific period of time, and they have the right to buy, if they want to, those shares at a specific price. And they are subject to all the restrictions that are in the contract. Now, one of those documents is called the stock plan document, and the other one is called a specific option agreement, which outlines the specifics as to how many options are granted, what's the exercise price, what's the date of the grant, when they vest. And so you have these two documents, and they are the documents that constitute the contract that the employee has with the company. Now, that governs what the employees or the grantees can do. Most of the companies don't have any prohibition against managing those options or their stock effectively or optimally. But the companies really don't want them to do it and kind of frown on doing it because they allege that it defeats the purpose of the options grant, and they find other reasons to justify frowning on it. But most of the contracts, and those are the documents that govern what they can do not prohibit maximally managing them by what we call hedging. And so they can do it. It's a matter of just going to a brokerage firm and selling calls or buying puts. And if you've never had a brokerage account and your positions are quite small, it's not for you. But it's for the people who have been there a while, who have substantial value in these options, and have some awareness of what they have and what the risks are, and want to get the most with the least amount of risk. And so there are people out there that are capable of advising executives. Now, you can look at people like Steve Jobs or Larry Ellison or John Chambers or a number of the real premium executives and look at how they manage their employee stock options. And they do it right. Okay, I'm just trying to tell the vast amount of people what the ways that John Chambers and Larry Ellison and Steve Jobs are told to manage their employee stock options, and that is to hold them to the end. Now, whether they are hedging it, I don't know, because I don't see all of the trading they do. You're only restricted to to seeing what they're reporting to the SEC. But most of the people are not given the same advice as those top executives are.
So people should call you, correct?
Yeah, they can call me, and I'll tell them how to do it even better than the guys that are telling John Chambers and Larry Ellison and Steve Jobs and James Dimon as to how they're doing it. I mean, I can improve on that there, but there's a lot of politics, and they if Steve Jobs gets out there and starts hedging his positions, then that's going to say to the lower rung people, hey, maybe I ought to hedge mine. You see, and so he doesn't hedge. They just keep, and they assume the risk because they got so much money anyway. What's the difference? $100 million to Steve Jobs. So, but they do it effectively. And whether they're hedging and reducing risk, I don't know. But the guy that has 75% or 80% or 90% of his wealth built up in the shares of a company ought to be concerned with reducing risk, and if he wants to do it, he ought to do it efficiently. And so that's what I do. I try to tell them what to do efficiently so that they'll end up with the most money with the least risk.
I'm sure that you've had consultations to help employees who have stock options or equity compensation, and they want you to manage the fund or to trade or to do something. Can you do that?
Yeah, they can give you discretion.
My question is, can you do it? Aside from consulting, do you actually do it, what needs to be done, or do you set them up?
Either way.
Okay.
I can deal with their broker, or I can tell them how to do it themselves, or they can just say, you do it for me, and I'll see what you did.
Okay, got it.
In other words, they give you trading authority over the account. And so the brokerage firm will take orders from me to sell this particular one at a certain price on a certain day, and or buy some puts. Or there's an interesting strategy of buying the puts, which gives you protection against drops inside of an IRA, because a lot of times people might not have cash hanging around to buy puts, but they might have some cash in their IRA. And so they can just use that cash, and any gains they make is tax-deferred or tax-free.
When you're buying puts inside an IRA, to what extent is it gambling?
Well, it's actually reducing the risk.
Talk about why.
If you have some stock options or some restricted stock to buy, say, Apple, and the stock has gone from 190 to 370 or something like that, and you had a right to buy 2,000 shares at 190 and it's 370, you got quite a bit of money there. Now, if the stock goes back to 190 because the market goes way down, then you have some money left, but you have a lot less. You might have 20% of the value of when the stock was 370. So you can buy puts or sell calls or do both in combination to, in fact, reduce the risk and of the stock going down again and you losing back what you otherwise would have made.
How many people do you think there are who have the breadth of experience and expertise and integrity that you do in the field?
None.
You don't think there's maybe a handful or two of people like you?
There's guys at Goldman Sachs that are real professionals that are doing this. There's people that are giving advice to top guys. And there was an article in the New York Times about, 6 months ago, where 475 of the top executives at Goldman Sachs were hedging their employee stock options and their restricted stock by selling calls, which is exactly what I would say to do, although you can buy puts too and this and that. But they were doing what I said to do. And so there was a lot of commotion about, the Goldman Sachs executives